know I get goosebumps when I hear people's stories. And I think it's important for us to know that it doesn't take marquee status. You know, what we see in the media oftentimes are people that are bigger than life. And sometimes we aspire to be like them. But I think it's even more important to see people who are really functioning and doing well and being successful at levels other than what necessarily will get broadcast on national television. So what I want to ask now is, how many of you are business owners? Okay, we've got a good group. Yeah. How many of you are aspiring business owners? On your way? Yeah. So hopefully you have gotten some inkling of the things that some successful people have done or had to do. I'm going to throw out the first question, which is, does anybody have questions at this time about spirit in business, spirit in your own business, what it takes to be successful? Go ahead.
I wanted to know from these women, what's the hardest thing about starting your own business? Like, what do you feel like what's your one biggest obstacle?
For me, because I had started making what I thought was money at 19 years old, I had never ever stood on an unemployment line. I had never been without. And when I built my entire adulthood off what other people wanted me to be, and starting my own business meaning was to say I can't buy a new car, I can't buy new shoes, or my mother say let's go see someone across the world, would I have to ask her? For me, it was fear of not having, because we were taught that you have to have more than anyone else. So that was my biggest fear, was to walk away from a steady income. And for anyone that that suffers from that, the thing is that when you will really realize that you will be so happy with nothing and not reporting to people, not smiling for people, because when you actually find your passion, even if it's not exactly what you want, just that you're on that journey, you have your ups and downs, but you are truly happy and you just forget it, and you will really finally start letting those things not bother you anymore. It was fear of not having for me.
You know, I have to say that I think the hardest part was choosing to actually cross the line to open the business. You know, I saw everyone my age, because the banking system had just got all the depression laws lifted off of them in 1998. So all this was happening at the same time, where the banks were then offering like $150,000 bonuses for someone like myself to go work for them. And that's quite intriguing when you think about it. But going back to the fact that you were not your own decision maker, and I actually, I just finished my MBA in 2005, and it's very interesting that through that whole process, I decided to change my license plates to choose to. And everyone always comes up to me and they say, choose to what? I'm like, I don't know, whatever you want. And it really is. I think the hardest part was to actually choose to say, I'm standing up for myself for once. And I think the other piece to that is, I always tell my clients, there's one of my mentors that told me this story, that if you have a bucket of crabs and you put one crab in the bucket, that crab can crawl out of the bucket no problem all by itself. But if you put 10 crabs inside the bucket, you will constantly be pulled back down into the bucket. Get rid of the crabs in your bucket in your life, because you're not choosing to do those things because of all the crabs around you. And it's amazing to me, as I've put people around me that have supported my decisions and just really walked away from great friends and saying, you know what, it's your fear that I'm going to be successful, not my fear. And really just recognizing that for what it is, that it's their issue and not mine. I think that was really hard, because there are some great friends. You know, being Irish, of course, the other way to look at it is you can't always go back and sit on the same bar stool once you've decided to cross the line. So,
you know, for me it was learning to trust my intuition. And I know we always talk about intuition, but I felt like what I had gone to school for, what I worked myself up to career-wise, it was like your mom said, go work at MCI, it's a great job, how can you walk away from that? It was kind of that thing. My friends were saying, well, what are you going to do? I can't believe you're leaving this job. And I was like, it sounds great at a cocktail party to say you're executive producing, but it's like watching paint dry. You're there all day, you know? And so for me, I had to recognize that what my brain was saying was the exact opposite of what I should be doing. It's like that episode, anybody watch Seinfeld? Remember when George did the opposite? He did exactly the opposite of his instincts, and his life became charmed. He started working for like a baseball team. Beautiful girls were sleeping with him. And and that's what I started doing. I started realizing that my brain was this computer, and it would only be able to compute based on past experience. And if I wanted to dream something and do something, I had to say, there's no template in here for it. I have to trust my heart, trust my intuition, trust that God or Spirit is, putting me out there and making me do things. And it's really hard. It's like you said, those first steps, just really opening your business, or me walking away from advertising and being here when the store when tumbleweeds rolled through it, and I was like, where are the people? So yeah, the intuition part.